The artist we're learning about today is Vincent Van Gogh. The title of this piece is Wheat Field with Crows. Make sure that you put that in quotation marks because that's the title. The medium, or what this piece was made with, is oil paints. So this is an oil painting. The elements that are most important for this piece are line and color. For line, we have all of these choppy brush strokes that are very directional. There's lots of them that are repeated, and it shows the impression, the idea of this wheat field, and the sky looks almost like you can see the wind blowing. We have these crows that are flying up that are pretty much just suggested by lines. For color, the specific color palette that he chose for this piece is pretty dark and moody. And yellow we usually see as a fairly happy color. Blue can sometimes be good or bad, but especially because this is dark and it seems almost like there's a storm coming, or maybe it's getting very late in the day. These muted colors make it seem a little more gloomy. The principles that are most important are movement and pattern. For movement, that's how your eye travels through the piece. With Western texts, we read from left to right. So we start off at the left here and follow this trail down, and it brings us up through the center of the piece. We look some over at these crows, and the wind of the wheat brings us this way, up towards where these crows are flying, up to the upper right. So what Van Gogh did here is he wanted to guide your eye throughout the entire piece, so that way you didn't just kind of walk by and pass it. For pattern, like I mentioned before, the repeated lines create a bit of a pattern. So we have some over here that are all going up and to the right. These ones are kind of laying a little bit more horizontal. There's almost a zigzag to some of them that are in the sky. So anywhere where he's repeating a specific line or direction or curve, that creates a pattern because there's multiple of it. The mood here, like I mentioned before with the colors, it's kind of dark, moody, very ominous. It seems like something bad might happen soon. The genre for this piece is post-impressionism. Van Gogh was a Dutch painter, and he lived from 1853 to 1890. This piece, Wheat Field with Crows, was actually thought to be his final painting. It shows his depression and struggles with mental disorder. It actually was thought for a long while that Van Gogh took his own life, but there's been some evidence lately that he might have accidentally been shot, and that's still a little bit up in the air. This work is very typical of Van Gogh's painterly style. He uses these very heavy, choppy brush strokes, which was something that was happening at the time with Impressionism and moving into Post-Impressionism, where the painters were not trying to get a photographic image, not everything very perfect, but to give literally the impression of the thing being represented. So not exactly rendered. And Post-Impressionism took that a little bit further by using thicker paint, daily subject matter, and vivid colors. The crows that are flying on the horizon and the angled brush strokes give the viewer a feeling of unease. Crows also, in general, are seen as a bad omen in many societies. They're, large birds that, come and seem to be pretty creepy. So that can kind of give this, offsetting effect by using them. On the left here is Starry Night, perhaps one of the most famous and recognizable pieces in art history. And there's been many parody pieces of it that you might have seen around. But here, the beautiful thing with this is, again, we can really see the movement of the air in the sky and the swirling of the clouds and the light of the stars emanating around them. And obviously, you can't see wind. You can see its effects on things like trees and, somebody's hair getting blown. But here, he's taking this above what we would actually see if we were standing in this exact same spot. By being able to see the movement of that wind, it gives a little bit of lightness to it and a little different feeling. The piece here to the right, Self-Portrait, is of the artist himself. So we know what he looked like because he did multiple portraits. And he actually was known for having cut off his own ear. He's rumored to have given it to a prostitute that he was in love with. And I'm just saying, if somebody gave me their ear that they cut off, I probably would be pretty grossed out. So it's not fairly surprising that that probably didn't go anywhere. He is credited with creating only 70 paintings in his lifetime, and his works weren't appreciated during his life. Really, he only reached acclaim after his death. He often would work in series, painting the same thing many times. This piece on the right, Sunflowers, he did many paintings of sunflowers in different positions and different lighting and different kinds of sunflowers as well. And the reason for this is so that he would partially, be able to really improve and really know these flowers inside and out and be able to exactly represent them how he wanted. On the left here, Vincent's bedroom in Arles. This is the room that he was renting and the room that he died in eventually. He is using some very nice perspective here, but also, again, keeping with that painterly style and giving you just a suggestion of that wood grain in the bottom. There's, really beautiful colors. It's very calming because of the blues that he's used, a little bit different than the blues that were in the first piece, though he does still have that similar yellow, which when it's paired with these other colors feels very warm now.